bala lokola ponge bakomi lokola paralysé bazali sur ma capacité mais bakufite bazali sur ma capacité ndesi nango ba lotolongoli baki kosala ba opération yango lokola tomoni awa bangona ba suzevu baki kosala sema yango nde babwaki batokundi yango kolia te bwaka tango bakosala opération na nyama ezali ezali nanu mobimba eyikomona eyikoloba.
Joseph describes what he did, Bayelo what he witnessed. Their two accounts reveal that the Lindy staff systematically harvested organs from the camp's chimps. So that's how it was, like this day in Lindy, filmed by a team member. What Joseph and Bayelo revealed was that some animals were dissected alive. And the main reason in those days for harvesting living organs was to make tissue cultures needed to make the polio vaccine. Jacques Kenyama and Philippe Elebe both worked in the Department of Virology with Paul Ostereth.
Au département de la virologie, on fabriquait des vaccins parce que après la fabrication, on met dans des flacons de 50 millilitres et on met des étiquettes aussi. Ce n'était pas une chose à cassette. Il y avait des étiquettes et on avait écrit aussi les vaccins anti-polio.
C'est un vaccin qui a maladie.
Mais ce qui est de près, c'est que le vaccin est poliomyélite. Il y a un mike.
Bino boy baki ndenge nini kasi lokola yepe bande osala ka vaccin ni docteur Osterith
parce que ngai na bite yende asaraka parce que tango ya bengisa ngai ke ya ka préparer ba flacon atinda kiyo o sukula ngoti ya stérile to kotia vaccin kona ezali vaccin a préparer ango atina mwa nini moko bouillé ya stérile nde ngana kenda kinde kotia tiana. Parce que ce qui est utaki musika ikoki koya bongo te ezali kiyende mutu asa fabrique.
Paul Ostereth refused to speak with us, but he was categorical in his public denial before the Royal Society when he stated, "It never would have occurred to me to risk human life and my own reputation on material prepared under such primitive conditions. I categorically deny that I ever did that." Gaston Inan was also at Camp Lindy. He was a microbiologist who took part in the vaccination campaigns in other parts of Africa. Edward Hooper first interviewed him in November 1992 and recorded the conversation.
The virus was cultivated on kidney cells, chimpanzee kidney cells. At this time, the tissue culture was made in bottle like this.
Yes.
Comme ça. And this was at the beginning because the kidney cell and the kidney cell multiply easily. And it was a good substrate for the polio virus.
Oh, I see. So this is quite extraordinary. Now, in the end, he always retracts the chimpanzee kidney cells and just says, I don't know which type of monkey kidney. But the point is, he repeatedly says that they were making it on chimpanzee kidney. I had no choice when I wrote The River but to accept his retraction, to accept his final version of events. And Gaston Inan is now dead. But I believe very firmly that the original version that he gave me was the correct one.
The few remaining records from Camp Lindy make it clear that exams and organ extractions were conducted in a very systematic fashion. While Kaprowski and Ostereth insisted that they would never use chimp kidneys to make polio vaccines, research at the time pointed directly to the chimpanzee. From 1953, Alexander Jezierski, a veterinarian known by Kaprowski, conducted research in eastern Congo on behalf of the Pasteur Institute. He was looking for the best medium to use for the polio vaccine. in his comparative study of all African monkeys, chimpanzees topped the list. The chimp, always the chimp, genetically so close to humans. Were they used to create the vaccine given to 1 million African people? Many of the Camp Lindy scientists deny that chimps were used to make the polio vaccine. But Pierre Dupang is not so sure. He was in charge of laboratory testing at the time.
C'est évident que le chimpanzé est intervenu dans la composition du vaccin anti-polio. Mais à quel stade, à quel niveau, moi je n'en sais rien. Je ne vois pas pourquoi on aurait fait tant d'histoires que ça avec les chimpanzés, si ça n'avait pas été pour s'en servir pour avoir un but scientifique en fait. Mais c'était avant tout un but scientifique pour lequel on les employait. Non, j'ai plus rien à dire. Je vais parler assez comme ça. C'est parler de soi-même.
Two months after our meeting, Edward Hooper saw Dupang, and during this recorded conversation, he says a bit more.
Of making the culture.
The culture was sterile. And I put the culture sterile. I was sterile to an inard. I don't know to do what I don't know.
Let me ask you one last thing, Pierre, before I go. How many times then would you say that you were making the sterile tissue culture from chimps for Australia? A long time.
Dupang sheds light on the true situation at the time, and it makes sense that the polio vaccine would have been made locally for the vaccination campaigns in Africa.
And what I discovered was that routinely, all the people who were making oral polio vaccine used one particular method. They didn't send gallons of their vaccine overseas. That would have been logistically a very, very difficult process. They sent a small amount. They sent typically one flask of maybe 100 cc of vaccine. And each of those polio vaccine makers had another laboratory, the laboratory near to where the vaccination was taking place, grow the vaccine up in locally available tissue culture. So Albert Sabin sent his vaccine to places like Hungary and the Soviet Union in 1957, and it was grown up locally in laboratories in Budapest, in Moscow, in Leningrad, and so forth. From Paris, Pierre Lepine from the Pasteur Institute, he sent his vaccines out to places such as Brazzaville in Congo-Brazzaville. It was then in French Equatorial Africa. And there again, apparently, they grew up the vaccine virus in the locally available tissue culture. There, the commonest monkey was Cercopithecus nictitans. So basically, although there was great control being exerted about how they developed the vaccine itself, how they attenuated the vaccine, they then grew it up in what was effectively locally available tissue. Now, they did their best, I'm sure, to make sure that monkeys, primates were used which were healthy, which didn't appear to be sick, but there was no final check made as to the material that was being fed to human beings. It was assumed that this stuff, the cells from the locally available primate, was going to be safe.
This contradicts Paul Osterrith's testimony before the Royal Society, where he insisted that the polio vaccine could never have been prepared in Stanleyville. But in one of the lab's rare remaining official documents, we found 250,000 doses made for 250,000 people.
Yego niko babikoresha ko ntibagirira hafi twebwe twari kure y'aho turi twarigaba abakoze nibo babyuka cyane kuko bazi kuzinduka abandi twarigaba tukararayo kwari urucanco rukomeye cyane atawusiba no buhoro cyane.
udacandazwe nawe jango umuntu akanga ntaje kwicandagisha ntacabiki
urumva hageze nk'umuntu reka kuja ku rucanco urumva hariho abatware baramenya bati mu rugo kwa naka ntibagiye ku rucanco urumva hariho ibintu nyene mugabo ntawe bapfunga ariko barabahimiriza rwose ku buryo bose bashobora kugenda barakurikirana cyane.
Between 1956 and 1960, more than 1 million people were ordered to receive Kaprowski's chat vaccine. When this was revealed, the World Health Organization immediately condemned these experiments.
It would be absolutely unfair if responsibility for this sequence of events, for the making of the vaccine in chimpanzee cells, was to fall solely on the shoulders of Paul Osterrieth. He was the corporal or sergeant, but we must look for the generals here. His boss, Ghislaine Courtois, the head of the medical laboratory in Stanleyville, clearly approved this course of action. There's no doubt about that. And just a few months before he began making the vaccine in chimp cells, Osterrieth was being trained in tissue culture techniques at the Wistar Institute, at the specific request of Hilary Kaprowski. The person with overall responsibility for this sequence of events, without a doubt, is Dr. Kaprowski. Without his approval, without his direction, this sequence of events would not have taken place.
I have no knowledge about it. I don't think the Belgians have knowledge about it. You should take his evidence with a grain of salt.
I mean, is it possible that this was done without you knowing, that chimpanzee kidneys were used without you knowing about it?
No, there was no possibility to do something like that.
From our trip to the Congo, we learned that the Lindy chimps and the Stanleyville laboratory facilitated the local production of the chat vaccine. But does that resolve the question of where AIDS originated? The impossibility of testing or gaining access to the Congo samples, if they still exist, will always cast a shadow upon the answer. For the moment, in the scientific community, the polio vaccine theory is dead. But the extraordinary convergence of Kaprowski's polio vaccination campaigns with the epicenter of AIDS might encourage them to investigate Edward Hooper's theory more closely. At the very least, questions are being raised about using monkey organs to make polio vaccines.
We should have stopped using monkey kidney tissues, I think, for virus production in 1960. And we've continued to do so. The drug companies are the ones who really determine this. They have developed facilities, they develop processes that would cost them a lot of money if they had to do it a different way. The thing that makes me physically angry is the fact that we now have the genetic ability to make synthetic polio vaccine from recombinant proteins, and we are not doing it. That we continue to take ground up monkey parts and inject them into children.